Hey everybody, MGM here with the next video in my series, Companies I Recommend Over the Corporate Overlords, that own our flagship game to our hobby. This series is a follow-up to my other series entitled My Plea for You to Play Other TTRPGs. My goal for these videos are to offer alternative D20 fantasy systems for people that might be leaving Hasbro's game and wanting to see a little bit more of what's out there in the same vein. Now, if there's ever a game that you feel I missed or should have made the list, or if you have your own personal list, please feel free to share it below. Now, I want you to keep in mind that each list, I'm only doing 2 lists here, and each one has 5 entries with an honorable mentions video that will reference 3 other games. But even with that, I can't cover every single game out there, and some really great games, of course, will fall to the wayside. And I just can't cover everything or even own everything because I'm limited by my own budget and time, of course. So if you mention some other games in the comments, you're just helping other people find even more games that I can cover at once. And that's what I'm all about here, is trying to spread tabletop RPG goodness to more people, even if it's not the game that I'm featuring. So please feel free to share that below, not for me, but for the people that might be reading the comments. Now, in today's video, I get to feature Necrotic Gnome and the very popular Old School Essentials. Now, if you're one of the people that are totally in love with the old game, but not in love with big corporate shenanigans, then this video just might be for you. Yes, grognards, I am talking to you, and those that are interested or intrigued by the old game. So stay tuned and check out this excellent retelling of the BX and Advanced games. But first, let's take a quick look at Necrotic Gnome and Old School Essentials. All right, a little bit about Necrotic Gnome. The company creator and founder, Gavin Norman, began publishing tabletop RPG material under the name Necrotic Gnome in 2012. Starting off with the classic D&D focused book of spells and arcane classes called Theorems and Thaumaturgy, and it was originally released on Lulu.com. And it was very well received in the community from what I remember. The revised edition would go on to be a platinum bestseller on DriveThruRPG, and is still available today, of course. The links are in the description below. He also went on to create some zines and other supplemental material for old school D&D and grew the publishing company. I'm not sure when, but I'm assuming that during this time of company growth, Gavin decided to take the original BX rule set and then subsequently the advanced D&D rule set and do what I feel many really wanted to do but just couldn't. And that is to reorganize the rule set in a way that offers modern layout design and ease of use. This is not really a rewrite of the game per se, but a retelling of the original rule set. Layout design and formatting were added to streamline the rule set for ease of use. Some ambiguous rules got some minor rewording, but I don't have examples of that, and I'll admit that right off the bat. I just know there's a few things in there that were slightly changed that were maybe more ambiguous in the early game. And the option of ascending AC instead of THAC0 as an alternative rule is added into the rule set. And that's it. Keep in mind, THAC0 is the default. Ascending AC is the option. Now, if you take that new formatting and organization, add in some stellar artwork from top-notch fantasy artists of different styles, and team up with tabletop RPG company and website Exalted Funeral, and I think you get a good recipe for a tabletop RPG phenomenon that just kind of was ready to blow up when it hit the scene. But in 2019, Old School Essentials was released to the world and never looked back. It has been and still is a huge success on the tabletop RPG scene and has an enormous following and very active community. Check them out on Discord and Facebook. There's really big communities there. And if you go to the bottom of the Necrotic Gnome website page, it has links to all of that stuff there, and that page is linked below. Now, for Necrotic Gnome, recently, they and Exalted Funeral had a Kickstarter campaign for a game and setting called Dolemwood. I don't know much about this as it's not a Kickstarter I was a part of, and I did find out about this while researching Old School Essentials. But I can tell you a few things. The game is based on the classic game rules with some expanded rules for the specific setting. The Kickstarter was fully funded in about 45 minutes and officially closed September 8th of 2023. It appears that this past November 2024, I'm recording this in December of 2024, is when the three, what appear to be some really beautifully done books are finally starting to be printed. And this game and setting seems to be based on a more eerie fairy tale type of setting. I'll link the stuff to Dollenwood below in case you want to check it out. But that brings us up to what's happening now with Necrotic Gnome. So let's head over to the PDF and see what's so freaking cool about Old School Essentials. Alrighty, guys, here at the website. I want to show you the website here before we go to the PDF, just because I want to explain a little something, because I understand for some people it has been a bit of confusion, and I can see why. So I want to explain it very quick. I'm here at the Necrotic Gnome website, and as you can see here, the very first thing they're explaining is the old school. Now, the classic fantasy is the 80s basic expert game, the BX games from the 80s. And you can see you can either get it in the tome, and this is the one I own, the single book tome, or you can get the slipcase that contains 5 smaller books, all the same material. Now, when you're talking about the advanced game, this is the BX system basically with the advanced expansion. So it gives you more stuff, more classes, monsters, magic, all that kind of stuff. That you can get as either the player's tome and referee's tome. Now, this one also, if you get this, includes all of the classic rules, or in my case, since I already have the core rule entire set, I would just really need this expansion set to get all the stuff together. The expansion set is 4 books in that slip. It's something more close to, as it says right here, close to the 1970s advanced first edition rules. Something else I want to show you really quick at the Necrotic Gnome website here is under Old School Essentials. If you go to free downloads, you find the free basic version rule set that you can download for free along with the character sheet. So just want to show you guys that. Let's head over to the PDF and check out the game a little bit more in depth. Okay, guys, here we are at the PDF. Now, I own the classic rules tome or the classic fantasy rules tome that is the entirety of BX rules in one book. And that is the PDF we will be looking at today. Now, this is a good representation of the overall quality you'll expect from Old School Essentials. And just in case you're wondering, if you do collect books or you do just like really good quality books for your game, Old School Essentials definitely has you covered there too. Very, very nice quality. I recommend them to collectors. But let's take a look at Old School Essentials, the game. Quick stop here at the credits page to give a little credit where credit's due. Of course, we got Gavin Norman as the writer, layout, and editing person, and a ton of wonderful artists. So just take a look here. Check out all of the great artists that got themselves involved here. Awesome stuff. Let's stop here at the intro page. Great look at the basic layout, and you can see how easy it is to follow and navigate. Very well done. You can check here, terminology is broken down, but I really want you to take a look at the artwork here again. We'll make a couple pauses during this book. I won't show everything, but there's a few things that I really like to show off because the artwork is one of the wonderful aspects of Old School Essentials. Stopping here really quick, once again, look at the artwork, but I really want you to see how it points out specifically it is based off the basic expert rules, the 1981 edition specifically, and any material that was published for that game onward should be compatible with this system. Just something I wanted to point out there to you. And another quick pause for some really nice artwork here. Stopping here really quick as we start to learn about player characters. Very, very familiar stuff here. I won't delve into too much of this, but here I just want to highlight how they use ascending AC as an optional rule. Notice how to hit AC 0 or THAC0 is the default rule to this game. Also, as you see, creating a character, this is very well laid out, and notice how just within 2 pages you get everything you need. And that's one of the beauties of the layout of the game is how most things are within 2 pages, so it's easy to access and find information quickly. And here you see the ability scores that we are all so familiar with. Very easy to switch over to if you're used to any style of Dungeons and Dragons. Just want to point this out as well. Each ability score has its own chart. Now, it's these addition of extra charts that actually causes me to call this a rules medium. And I think that's a good space to be in. Another pause for some artwork here. And I love how there's so many different styles of artwork. It kind of reminds me a lot of games like basic fantasy role-playing game where there's a ton of different artists that contribute, and this has that same vibe, and that's something I really like because the more styles of art that you get to see, the more ways you can understand that the game can be played. At least I think that. Maybe I'm just a little weird. And when we talk about character classes, this is one of the ways that the new formatting really stands out and has really caught on for a lot of. In the old original game, to create a character, you would usually have to flip multiple times between different pages to find the information you needed to actually do that. What Old School Essentials have done is put every class on 2 pages that lay across from each other, and all the stuff you need to create and level up that character is contained there. And that's genius. It's a very small but extremely meaningful change. And all the classes are like this. I'm not going to show every class. Of course, I just want to give you a really good idea what you're looking at. But again, look at the layout of the pages, how easy it is to follow. It's easy to find information, and it's very simplified. So for a rules medium game that requires like the actual charts here of experience and turning undead and things like that, this is beautifully simplified and streamlined to make it seem a lot less daunting to most people. Big kudos to Gavin for that. Taking a stop here at equipment. This is old school equipment stuff, and it's beautiful. And, it really does focus on dungeoneering, dungeon crawling, however you want to call that. The equipment is very focused on that, and your equipment is literally the life or death of your character in many cases. The old school game takes equipment a little more serious than I feel the new game does, and I really enjoy that aspect of the old game, and I like having that in my games as well. So equipment doesn't just do the thing that you think it does. Using equipment creatively is such a great aspect of the old school game, and something the OSR as a whole, I think, is really trying to capture. Is you're not superheroes. You might have some power, but you're basically people who are trying to clever your way out of everything the best you can. And tools can be used the same way. I gotta tell you, it's impressive how well they've put the vehicles and mounts together. Having these rules organized the way they are is just fantastic. And, I can't really credit Gavin enough for just the way this is organized and laid out. It's beautiful. Very well done. Quick pause for another wonderful bit of art. Love it. Now, something I love about the old game and that is beautifully portrayed in Old School Essentials is the hired help. I'm a big fan of retainers. If you've listened to any of my other videos, it's one of those things I love having in your game, the ability to hire retainers, specialists, henchmen, whatever you want to call them. And this really lays it out and gives you multiple options for that. And having it all put together on one place like this, easy to access, really makes you even want to add more of them into your game because it doesn't take a lot of work to get them together. Now, they have a rules section for strongholds, and I know this is sort of what they're doing in the newest version of Hasbro's games. This is what they actually had in the original game. Having strongholds was an important part of the game, and in some cases, one of the goals of the game was to do this. In many ways, the original game did this as a dump for gold coins because you needed to spend those coins for experience, depending on the game you were playing, of course. But all that aside, it's really awesome to have such a concise telling of the stronghold system. And I mean, kudos again. And here at the Magic, we do have the old school Vancian Magic. And for me, I will admit I am not a fan of Vancian Magic. However, this is the original game, and if you're telling it like it was, this is how it was done. My personal preferences aside, Gavin once more just does an excellent job of laying out magic in a way that makes it accessible and a lot easier to understand. I don't want to pause here because I mean, isn't that a great picture? I just like that. Also, spell books, magical research, all included here, but I just really wanted to show you the picture. I thought that was really cool. Another pause for some awesome artwork here. Forgive me for gushing over the artwork a little bit, but hey, those guys need their credit too, right? Pausing again at a little bit of artwork, but I want you to see here on the adventuring page party organization, and how we have marching order, the caller, the mapper. These are really old school, traditional party roles, and they're really portraying them here in a concise manner that makes it easy to understand what those roles are. And I think that's really cool because being a mapper was actually a very important part of the early game. And including it in your game, if you really want to know what the early game felt like, this is what you got to do. And I think that's pretty awesome, really. I remember playing in a couple of games when I was young where I was the mapper, and I had quite a bit of fun doing that. So add it in your game. Don't skip this idea here. It's a lot of fun. Take a look here at Dungeon Adventuring just to show you that this is very much a core part of the old game. Adventuring in dungeons of all kinds was a very important aspect, and this section really delves into that a little deeper, and I really enjoy that. Another pause here for an awesome picture that I really like. Here we see the classic combat. Gives you a good sequence. Also, once again, points out the ascending armor as an optional rule. Good stuff here. Not much to really say. This is the classic game. If you want to get into the classic game, definitely check out Old School Essentials as a way to do it, where that's easy to read, follow, and understand. But if you're looking at this and you have any experience with the old game, you will very much recognize what's going on here. They do present morale as an optional rule here as well. I think that's great. You know, I'm a big fan of the morale role in games, especially for enemies, because hey, not everybody is going to fight to the death. Now, starting on page 136 of the book, you get the GM part of the book, basically, the referee's role. The GM is called a referee in Old School Essentials. I'm not going to delve into the referee advice and rules here. But let's just say, just like with this entire book, the way it's presented, the ease of reading it and understanding makes the game, I feel personally, much more accessible to referees or GMs out there that otherwise would have been too afraid to take up the mantle. And I think this does a good job of bringing those people in. I just can't give Gavin and Old School Essentials enough credit on how it all came together and how beautifully and wonderfully it all flows together. Gotta stop at this picture here. What a great picture. Awesome artwork in this book. And I'm only showing a fraction of the artwork that's in here. Guys, just to let you know, this I'm only stopping at some. I'm skipping over some really nice stuff on purpose because I want you guys to find out for yourself. Seriously, great artwork in this book. Really draws you in. All right, now the referee guide part of the book does give you a lot of tables and advice on building different places, towns, wilderness, dungeons, and so on. And here we see the XP. And in the old game, it was gold and defeated monsters that gave you experience points. And that is exactly how it's presented here. And once again, got to show you some sweet artwork. What a great picture there. A quick look at monsters here. And this gives you a really good basic breakdown of how monsters are made. And then, of course, a bestiary follows. I won't be going through all that, but I will showcase a couple for you here, just so you get an idea of some of the stuff that's in here. Stopping off here, I had to show the giant leech because look at that insane picture. How terrifying is that? That's great. But as you can see with the creatures, stat blocks for any kind of scenario you might need, and great artwork to go along with it. Hydra picture is also pretty sick. And here showing off the Spectre. Again, artwork that's just insanely great. I love it. Just to show off a couple of things, but these two examples give you a good idea of the layout, the stat blocks, and of course the great artwork that goes into the monsters. Excellently done. Well, there's an entire section of encounter tables that I think are great. You know, I'm a big fan of roll tables, and this gives a good collection of them for dungeons, for wilderness, for towns, for NPCs. Thumbs up once again. Had to take a pause at this one wilderness encounter table just to show off this sweet dragon. Oh, there's so much of this in the book to appreciate. I really like that. Treasures take, of course, a large part in a game where gold and XP go hand in hand, and there is a good amount of it talked about here from page 228 to 235. Awesome stuff for a referee to pull from. Just one example right here. You can see different types of treasure you can roll on this. I mean, just great stuff. Another art break. It just screams fantasy, fairy tale, things like that. I absolutely love it. Magic items also take front and center for multiple reasons, for the money and for the benefits that they offer. And there are tons of great magic items of all sorts that take up a very good section of the book here. I'd say it's what, like 36, 37 pages, I think. Plenty of stuff for you to play for a lifetime if you wanted to. Gotta stop for some great artwork once again. This is a style of artwork that I actually enjoy quite a bit as well, and a great representation. And another great piece. This is one of those scenes that may even remind you of a game you've played before, or maybe it'll even inspire a game to come. At the end of the book is one final and quite trippy piece that I'm a fan of. I have a feeling this may inspire a game in the future, but that is something we will see. Love it though. As we're kind of staring at this trippy piece here, guys, let's just say that Old School Essentials fills that old school feel so perfectly because it literally is old school gaming, just reorganized and streamlined for ease of learning and use. It also fills the role of what I consider a rules medium game, as I was saying earlier. And in this case, it's mostly the extra charts and things that go with the rules that are the main source of me feeling that. But when you play it, it does play towards the lighter side. A great way to satisfy the Grognard community while also welcoming new players and GMs to the hobby. But hey, let's head back to the table so I can give you a few closing thoughts on this beautiful old school retro clone. All right, everybody, back at the table here. Old School Essentials by Necrotic Gnome is one of the go-to recommendations for those who just want to play the game they used to play, or for those who want to really experience what the old school gamers were playing and why they're so faithful to it. This also fits for those who want an active community and in-house support and supplemental material other than the current Hasbro version of the hobby's flagship game. Why? Because Necrotic Gnome and Old School Essentials boast a huge following, offers compatibility with any old school materials that were made for BX and forward as far as adventures and supplements, has a robust third-party scene of artists and writers, as well as tons of just in-house support in the form of supplements and adventures. It has a classic and loved rule set that's easy to read, follow, and use. And the benefits of a company that pays attention to their fans and acts on it and is part of the tabletop community itself, all those elements are there. With that, the artwork is done by real artists and is top-notch in quality. And they offer a free version of the basic rules. Plus, the entire classic rule set is in SRD form for free on the Necrotic Gnome site. Again, the Necrotic Gnome site will be linked down below. Please check them out. Now, I don't think I have to say it, but I will anyway. Necrotic Gnome definitely fits in with what my channel stands for, and I hope that those of you looking for this style of play will check it out and enjoy it for years, because it's easy to do that with this game. Also, if you end up getting any of the physical books, just take some time to sit down and flip through and appreciate the book and the artwork within, because as far as I'm concerned, that's worth the buying price in itself. But all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in and watching. There are still 3 more videos in this series, plus an honorable mentions video, so stay tuned. A huge shout out to the enormous Old School Essentials community out there. There are plenty of people out there that are playing this game and putting out stuff both for free and stuff you can pay for. And it's just a great community to get into. If you are looking for that in your game, you definitely have that here. I also want to give another huge shout out to all the grognards out there who are being bridges instead of gatekeepers. Keep the torch burning, my guys and gals. Anyway, all right, guys. Old School Essentials here is a perfect example of what the OSR movement is all about and a retro clone in the purest of senses. It is also a great little game for you to give a try and use to play for fun first. Thanks for watching, everybody.